Welcome back. Now, of course, we just made note of there with Gary with regards to the earnings picture for Absa and that interim picture. 82% fall in that headline earnings figure and seeing impairments then increase fourfold there to 14.7 billion rand. Let's unpack all of these numbers then as much as possible, of course, with the CEO, Daniel Minele, who does join us now. Mr. Minele, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it. A tough time in this first half of the year.
Yes, thank you, Arabella, and good afternoon to your viewers. Indeed, a very challenging period, and COVID-19 and the resultant disruptions that we've seen to economic activity, throughout all our markets in which we operate have had a significant impact on our financial performance during the first half of 2020.
Do you expect that to continue, though, for the remainder of the year? I mean, not necessarily in terms of the losses you see, but I mean, that sort of business you kind of carry through onto the rest of the year, right? So how do you expect to perhaps pick things up again as you get towards the end of your financial year?
Arabella, of course, we continue to live in an environment that is characterized by high levels of uncertainty. But we do expect things to start improving because the economy is being opened up as and when we move further down the lockdown levels. We are starting to see encouraging signs of the economy opening up and economic activity coming up again. So we do expect that the second half of the year should be better than this half. And if one looks at our own economists in terms of the forecasts that was recently put out, they have revised it somewhat from the contraction that they were initially expecting of about 9.7 to 8.3, but conditions are continue to be difficult. But certainly we hope that with economic activity resuming, the fortunes will improve.
Yeah, that 8.3% decline in GDP growth that you're forecasting, there surely isn't a bank in the world that would like to operate in that kind of environment, of course. How do you perhaps get consumers to form part of this growth, perhaps just a little bit more, and with, of course, them struggling to pay back their debts at a time like this? How do you encourage that better?
Look, obviously, as far as consumers are concerned, you know that during this first half, we provided significant support to our customers in the form of various payment relief programs. And obviously, as and when these expire, we would be working with... Can you hear me, Arabella? It looks like there's some interference.
No, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so there was some noise coming from the studio. What I was saying is that we will continue to work and support our clients and customers and see how we can assist them as the situation unfolds based on their own individual circumstances, that be a solution for that, be it in relation to individuals, be it in relation to our corporate customers. I think the one point which is worth highlighting, Arabella, is that beyond the big headline of the 82% substantial decline in the normalized earnings, there were some interesting aspects that in terms of the underlying performance and resilience of the business that one maybe needs to highlight. We have seen our revenue growth being quite resilient, despite slowing down. In the second quarter, it grew by 3% still, 40 billion rands, which I think is quite a respectable performance given the circumstances that the banks and the pressures that they were facing. We've managed to control and manage our costs quite well. They were down by 2% year on year, 22 billion. And our operating income has been rising at a faster rate than our operating expenditures, which produces a positive jaws effect. And if one looks at our growth pre-provision, we grew at 9%. So there is a fair amount of resilience in the business still. And one also needs to remember that a fair chunk of those provisions are based on management judgment, on estimates, what we potentially could face by way of expected credit losses, which have to do a lot with uncertainty that we are in and a lot to do with how some of our customers will emerge from the various relief programs. So things may yet improve into the second quarter, but we are cautious because the environment continues to be uncertain.
As you remain cautious, you continue to say, though, that all your business units are indeed still profitable ones, right? So they're the right avenues to still get into. But where would you say at a time like this your biggest growth avenue for the future really lies? What is it that you'll be focusing on primarily from here on in?
It would be essentially various sectors that we are traditionally involved with as and when the economy comes up. In recent months, for instance, we have seen increasing developments with regards to our mortgage business, our vehicle asset financing business. But of course, the future would also entail us refining our digital propositions and speaking much more directly the way in which customer preferences and customer needs would have changed as part of COVID, and that's where we need to focus on. We have used this time to ensure that we continue to stay close to that customer, to understand what their needs are. So whatever opportunities arise, we will take advantage of, both in the traditional spheres that we've been and in any new, in particular in the digital space, where new opportunities may arise, which we will take advantage of.
Yeah. Mr. Minele, appreciate the time. Thank you so much. All the best for that second half as well. We'll hopefully get to chat to you as well under perhaps slightly better circumstances when we get to that one there. The CEO of Absa there joining us as well on the line, Mr. Daniel Minele. Very quickly, just to give you that breaking news story, as you can see from the bottom of your screen, the old Juma Mosque that's out in Grey Street in Durban has unfortunately been put on fire. It did open right back in 1930. It does have a capacity of around 6,000 people as well. A big history then of South Africa as well. A big part of South Africa's history, should I say, then, of course, having opened back in 1930. It did really become a spiritual center predominantly for South African Muslims in the area in particular as well. In August 81, the site itself was then bought by Abu Bakr Ahmed Javari as well then. In Grey Street then at the time. So they only bought it for £115, which of course at that time was quite a bit. But hopefully the history of that mosque isn't necessarily put down, and we will get more information on that story as and when it comes through. Indeed, we are getting notes then, as you can see at the bottom of your screen there, the historic Grey Street Mosque out in Durban, indeed on fire.